Well, good morning and welcome. Having a little bit of a lighting issue today. I'm not really this orange, but something in the setup is off a little bit today as we were updating settings. Apologies for being a couple minutes late. This is a really great session. This is the first of 3 sessions this week. So hopefully you get to tune into all those sessions. They'll help you quite a bit. Oh, there we go. Make sure my controller is working. I want you to think about what today's about. Today is really about how you change the equation of diminishing returns simply by changing the rules, how you begin to reach out to people directly rather than simply go through HR. And we're going to talk a lot more about that as we go on today. I have a little bit of a green screen issue here. I see also, gosh, I wish that weren't the case. Wish we could get that a little bit better today. At any rate, as we jump in, here's the 3 that are coming up this week. Tomorrow is a very special one, and that is charting your career transition. So if you're thinking about really going a different direction than maybe you have in the past, that will certainly be a great one. Thursday is going to be all about how you put together a social media campaign to either manage your career brand or manage your job search transition and really open up a whole bunch of new opportunities. So hopefully you can tune into any of those and you can re-watch them, whether you're watching on my Facebook or my YouTube channel, SelfRecruiter, or over on LinkedIn. Now, the special thing about watching on LinkedIn, if you're joining me from there, is when you do comment in on LinkedIn, those are the comments that I can see right during this lecture. So if you have questions, gosh, that's a great place to put it. I will spot them in the chat and I'll respond to as many as I can. Let's jump into today, marketing yourself to the decision maker. This is a paradigm shift in job search. It's about surrounding the decision maker and influencing those individuals. Now, I think part of the tragedy that happens in a lot of job search is that people tend to sit on the internet looking at those darn job postings. Now, to me, that's partially tragic because about half of all job postings are not real in the first place. Oh, they're real because you're looking at them, but they're not real. They don't represent someone ready to hire today. They bought those job slots up to 1 year ago. I used to do all the national contracts. They buy them up to 1 year in advance. And really 6 months or a year ago, they had no idea what they're hiring today. And yet it becomes this thing that you have to keep posting, have to keep putting something up there. So about half the time that you're spending, if that's what you're doing for job search, you're really wasting your time. Check out my Supercharging Your Job Search lecture. Easiest is over on the SelfRecruiter YouTube channel under the live tab. And that'll help you kind of get on the right track. But really, if we're doing that kind of thing, looking at job postings, clicking and sending it off to whom? Well, in most every case, it's going off to HR. Now, if you want to work for HR, that's exactly who it should go to. Maybe not your competitor within HR, maybe the top of HR. But for the rest of us, if you work in some other department or desire to, your decision maker, in my opinion, is not in HR. Your decision maker is the person that will benefit from having you on board, who understands your background. The problem with folks in HR is they get a bad rap. There's nothing really wrong with those people. They're just great people like the rest of us, but they're overburdened with many different tasks. And when it comes down to the recruiting and filling spots, they don't have the proper background to evaluate you and your specialty. And yet they're working off this little checkbox list that gets written up like a lunch order. What do you think we should hire? A little salt, a little sugar, a little pepper, until it's this nonsense list of somehow tangentially connected items, but that's not a day-to-day picture of the job. And but you don't match the magical checkbox list. I'm like, I should get bonus points for that. 90 seconds with the decision maker, and they know exactly why you're right for this role or not. Can't talk yourself into a role you're not right for. But that is the game-changing part of this equation. Now, if you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if you're suffering, as most are, from really very poor storytelling across your career, that means across your resume, across your LinkedIn profile, work with someone, a storyteller that understands how to keep it letter true, but change it to a very different level and elevate your career brand, open up those new doors. All my services are over on my SelfRecruiter website under the services tab. And I can tell you from client after client after client, it is transformative no matter what level of career you're on. So you know where to find my information. A couple of resources that'll help you. My SelfRecruiter book, it's a great book. Easiest place is over on Amazon to pick it up. This is a wonderful guide that will take you through a step-by-step that will solve a lot of the problems. On my SelfRecruiter homepage itself, there's a very special version of my LinkedIn lecture where you can see me live, and adjust my size or adjust the size of the screens themselves. Really, you can use this as a start and stop tutorial as you build out a better LinkedIn profile. So that's a great resource. On my LinkedIn itself, you can click on my articles to get to a number of articles that will really help you really move forward in whatever obstacles are holding yourself back. So let's get into it. The whole lecture series is about one thing. How is it that you become this great individual, this agent, this recruiter, this self-recruiter that looks after one great candidate, which is you? And that means what we're going to have to do to chameleon ourselves into that role is we're going to have to not only be this person that has to find that next opportunity, but I also have to be the strategist, the cheerleader. I have to plan everything out. I have to think of everything. And I have to drink enough of that Kool-Aid to realize why I'm better than the next 5 or 6 people that want that same job. And that means taking control of your job search in a very, very different way. That's what all of these lecture series are about. Also requires you to keep one eye on the toughest competitor imaginable. Those 4, 5, 6 people that would really take this opportunity from you. Well, you can change the equation there because most of those perfect people, I'm not really sure if I've met one. I mean, we all like to think we're perfect. But we're not. We're flawed. We're human beings. In fact, by definition, we're defective. That's what a human being is. We're all different, unique, warts here and there and all that kind of stuff. But we all try to put our best foot forward. So you have to keep an eye on those perfect people who fall in the trap of ego and arrogance, and they don't prepare. They dust themselves off. They get dressed. Well, you know what? That's what we all have to do. A little bit of strategy, a little bit of planning. You can outmaneuver them almost every time. Again, change the equation of diminishing returns simply by changing the rules. These are rules you never agreed to in the first place, so let's change them to our benefit. This requires a paradigm shift in our approach. Well, you can't do it that way. I was told to send a resume in. I was told to send in a Word document. Hopefully not. Always a PDF, no matter what they ask for. Check out my resume renovation lecture over on the SelfRecruiter YouTube channel. That'll help you out under the live tab. So as we think about this, part of the magic is changing our whole look of how we're going to approach everything, what we're going to do, how we're going to involve ourselves. And that means we have to think about rules in the first place, these regimented things put in place really to keep us under control. And my take on rules is this. If that rule works for me, oh, I love it. That's a great rule. I love that rule. That rule doesn't work for John. that rule's for somebody else. That's for one of those poor other people. That's not really for me. I can just step right over the fence because it doesn't apply to me. We fall in a rut of doing the same thing over and over, following the instructions versus following our own instincts. I want you to learn new instincts that are going to guide you away from the unhappy, all these things in the list. You know, when I do in-person lectures, I'll ask people, well, depending on what the topic is, how's your ability to reach out to a decision maker? How's your resume? How's your LinkedIn? And of course, everybody sitting in the audience always yells out these things. And I thought, well, I should just write those down. There they are. And, you know, someone came up to me after one of the lectures going, yeah, that part, not very uplifting. I'm like, it's not, but it is based in reality. So we have to start there. We have to understand that that's part of what is blocking us. And we've got to change that. We have to deal with it. We have to move it out of our way, put it up on the shelf. We've got to bring ourselves over to a place of unconventional thinking, creative interpretation, and those light bulb moments will begin to go off, those moments of clarity where we see a different result, a different pathway, a whole communication network behind the scenes that the best of the best always use that somehow we didn't use. So this is about getting to the decision maker. Who is it that makes these decisions in the first place? Let's be clear. It's not just the decider. This is about influence. We're here to influence all of the people in that decision process so that we understand how to collectively get the thumbs up, the yes, whatever it might be in the process. So I want you to think about all the people involved. Now, when we kind of see this kind of thought bubble of a lot of people and one collective thought, what I'm after here is what I teach in my LinkedIn lecture. So do go watch that one, where you really utilize LinkedIn in a very different way, working backward, seeing the job that you want or not seeing it. It's up to you. But if you see the job that you want, then how do I sit and maybe I'll open 25 to 30 profiles on LinkedIn, triggering a marketing event behind the firewall of the company. Maybe up the food chain from this job, down to admin level for very strategic reasoning, left and right into a couple surrounding departments. Probably a nice mix of the 25 to 30 people that I would likely see every day or every week of my work life if I had this job. Those are the people feeling the pain. Those are the people that you can influence, and they can put maximum pressure on the decider about you, this great resource they've uncovered, this person they found. Here's what not to be. Please just don't be mediocre. Pains me to say this is about half the workforce. It's part of what's wrong with our companies, our economy, and everything else. About half the workforce is mediocre, and I love to read this one, so let me do it for you, of only moderate quality, not very good, ordinary, average, middling, middle of the road, uninspired, undistinguished, indifferent, unexceptional, unremarkable, exciting, run-of-the-mill, pedestrian, lackluster, forgettable, okay, so, come see, come saw, plain vanilla, and fair to middling, and not up to much, and bush league. Don't be mediocre. Now, if we're thinking about mediocre, you know what, that may be a little bit not uplifting as well. You know what you have to be? Just a little bit better than mediocre. If you're a little bit better than mediocre, you're ahead of the bulk of the people anyway. And if you just put a little bit of heart and soul into whatever it is that you do, suddenly you'll rise to be the top 1, 2, 3% very, very easily. Now, in reaching out to the decision maker, we also have to understand our personal branding, how we're going to present ourselves, how we're going to up our game so that we are more attractive than the next 5 or 6 individuals. The trap people fall into is they tend to go, I know, I'll just be cookie cutter perfect, cookie cutter perfect, cookie cutter perfect. Okay, that's great. Now, number 2, I'm gonna hire you. Number 2, I'm gonna hire you. I'm gonna pay you less. You don't want less. Number 3, number 5, doesn't matter. You're all cookie cutter perfect. You begin to see the problem with that. We have to not only achieve the cookie cutter perfect, but we also have to be exceptional. We have to step out of line. We have to identify ourselves as something unique. That's how you get a very different compensation package and even a different title, responsibility, all those things if you'd like them. You've got to make sure this personal brand about who you are and why you're unique, essentially the essence and value of your career, travels across your resume, your cover letters, your messaging, your LinkedIn profile. Hopefully it's on your email signature, your business card, all the ways that you could influence others, including how you're going to speak about yourself, which can be transformative. Really, it's about thinking about everything from your entire background, all the different assets that you have to sell, and putting them through one singular filter, one singular question. And that is, why is it going to be the best business decision they make today if they choose to hire me? If I'm always conveying that or the answer to that, not necessarily the question, my goodness, they're going to come to the conclusion that they need to hire me very, very quickly. So let's think about these decision makers. Who's given us the yes? Who's given us the no? And you see HR there, but to me, HR should only be involved at the final step of the process. Big believer. My clients will call me up and they'll go, "Oh, John, I have a job I want to go after." I'm like, "Great, don't apply for it." I'm like, "What? Don't apply for it." What? How am I going to get this job if I don't apply for it? Well, let's back up before I answer that. If you apply for it, where's it going? It's going to the people whose mission in life is to rule you out, not because they're bad people, because it's the only possible way to get to the right people. If this is any kind of a decent job, that means there's 1,000, 2,000 resumes being sent in, even in this market. Don't mishear that. That's not 1,000, 2,000 qualified individuals. It gets filled up with all sorts of nonsense because someone sees a good job and they go, "Oh, I'm a function around that. They'll have a good job for me too. Let me throw my hat in the ring so they see me and want to hire me also." And it clogs the entire system. But after you look at a few hundred resumes, it's like snow blindness or resume blindness. I can't tell any of these people apart. And the problem with HR is that they're not really the ones with the right background to evaluate your specialty. They have to work off that checkbox list. So they're kind of like a horse with blinders on. I can only see this. I can't see the other stuff. So we're going to have to think a little bit about that and what we're going to do. But to me, how you change that equation is let's get ourselves right to the decision maker, the hiring person, the person that can change everything. I'm going to show you how to get to that person using LinkedIn. Now, if you really ask me, what I'd like you to do is get to the boss, or the boss's boss is even better, or the boss's boss's boss is even better. It's a basic sales technique called top-down selling. Sell to the person that's 2 or 3 levels above the decider, and suddenly they're going to feel very, very different. I'm going to see if I can just adjust my screen settings just ever so slightly, because I just want to see if that's possible here. Don't seem to have a slider here. Well, maybe I'm thinking over on Zoom. I'm going to X out of that. Thought I might be able to tweak the settings here to get rid of a little of this green screen ghosting. So as I'm getting to these people, you notice peers, subordinates, and others are also influencers. So they're listed here. I'm going to use LinkedIn and my own knowledge of how these organizations are typically structured. So whatever area you're in, you know your area better than I do. The titling is not very different. It's going to follow some little pathway like this. You have to think about applying your own titles. So if I reverse search on LinkedIn, I can find these individuals that are my deciders very, very easily. LinkedIn's the de facto social networking website for our work life. It's the game changer. It's very similar to the database a good recruiter uses. And a good recruiter learns how to use their database in very different ways to extract information that can make their placement of candidates easier. I want you to use this information to place yourself in a much easier way as well. So in terms of LinkedIn, you get a 3-level network. You connect with someone, you get the 2 levels behind them in your pool. That's all searchable. No matter what those people behind do to their settings, the people behind them are in your pool. So very, very quickly, you could have the majority of people in your industry that you could have access to by searching the data. Now, here's my numbers from yesterday: 12,068 direct connections, about 21 million people 3 levels out in that larger pool. If you think about it, I can get to any decision maker I would like to simply by searching, because I've built my network in a very strategic way. So how do we do this? This reverse searching of LinkedIn to find decision makers. I go to the unified search box at the top of any page. I'm going to put a keyword there for the company that I'd like to get hired by. In this case, I'm going to use the example of Informatica, big database middleware company. As a recruiter many years ago, I made a lot of placements with them. They were one of my cash cows, placing people all over the country. As I begin to type in the company's name, I'm going to get this drop-down menu. Don't click on the drop-down menu. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. Just don't do it. Just click enter. And what happens is you get this nice secondary sorting process. So I have this wonderful, nice secondary sorting process. And what am I going to do with that? Well, as long as I'm here, I am looking for people in Informatica, but I bet you there must be other people, other companies maybe that I haven't thought of. And so if I'm right to work for Informatica, how about the other companies I might also be right to work for? Because they must have opportunity there. And in that case, while I'm here, I'm going to go down the company list, and sure, all of these that you see right here are Informatica. But once you go further down the list, there's a whole bunch of companies. In fact, there's 34,000 companies here. It's like, what are they all doing here? Well, I can tell you, they're all system integrators. They all either resell or install Informatica software. If I'm statistically right to work for Informatica, I'm very likely statistically right to work for a great number of these companies. So this is another way to build statistically perfect lists of companies to go after. But let's be realistic here. I'm after a job at Informatica, as an example. I need to find the people, the decision makers. So I go into the people tab. I should mention all of this is on the free version of LinkedIn. You don't have to pay for the upgraded version unless you so desire. I only use the free version. So I'm under the people tab, and what do I get? 2.5 million. Oof, that's a lot of people. Won't be able to look through that. I'll be cold and in the ground before I can get through that list. So let's see here. I have to put my thinking cap on, because this is job search, and job search is problem solving. I need the ones that are really in the US. Yes, give me those. And why don't you also give me the ones that are currently really working for Informatica, not like 3 years ago working for Informatica. And what do I get? 1,615 results. Oh, that's much better, much better. I like that. I like that. But I can't look at 1,600 profiles either. So let's be realistic here. Maybe it's a VP. I think it's a VP. It's problem solving, folks. You have to put your thinking cap on and problem solve. I think a VP is going to hire me. Look at that, just simple VP, not even vice president. Really US, really Informatica. What do I get? What do I get? 75. A lot of chiefs in that company. You know, maybe it's a director. Maybe it's a director, really US, really Informatica. Maybe it's a director. Let's take a look here. 228 directors. I'm going the wrong direction. I'm going the wrong. Oh, I have it. You know why I have it? Because it's problem solving, and this is how you have to solve it. It's a sales director I'm really looking for. And as long as I'm really thinking about location, how about right down to New York City, even on the free version, and currently working for Informatica. And what do I get? 3. Now, what you're really looking for are magically 3 to 5 individuals that would be the people that would be somehow involved in the conversation for a person like yourself. By the way, Anthony, yes, the tips for basically how to reach the decision maker are pretty easy. We are taking you through it now. So what we're going to do here first, Anthony, is show you how to find the name of the decision maker, and then we're going to walk you through the script of how you outreach to them. So great question. Thank you for asking. I do appreciate it. So as I'm going through here, I have these people that I want. I narrow it down, but you know, if I can get to 5 people, that's a little bit more of a game changer. So I want to think about how to change that a little bit. Maybe it's a sales VP. I could expand just a little bit if I have a sales VP. Really US, really Informatica. What do I get? Oh, I get 2 more. Now I have 5 people. By the way, along the way of discovering these 3 to 5 people that would be involved in the conversation to hire a person like myself, I also am looking for those 25 to 30 people up and down and left and right. And each one, I simply open them into a new tab. Much more about that process in detail on the LinkedIn lecture. So be sure to check that out. So now I have the 3 to 5 individuals that I think would be involved in the conversation. I want to open their profiles, which triggers a marketing event of having looked at them. I want to basically connect with them. Both of these activities, by the way, are taking 2 different hooks, 2 different worms, throwing them out into the pond, and be brave enough to wait for someone to click on my name and open my sales brochure, which is what your LinkedIn profile should be. So, but notice on Nick here, I'm frustrated with this. Oh, send in mail. First off, I hope you understand what an in-mail is. The literal definition of spam. It is paid email. That is spam. Please do not send spam. But I do want to connect with Nick. I load his profile. They still frustrate me. But if I just click those ... there's the little connect right below that. It's right there. They can't really stop me from connecting with someone. That's the nature of their whole business. And then I send out a basic connect request, which says, you don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. Here's a little stroke to your ego. And it sounds like this. I like to connect with other professionals in our niche or niche, depending how we like to say that, and comma. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. This is a message you write one time ever and copy and paste forevermore. I certainly at this stage never mention the open job, never mention I'm job hunting. All that will make them go, oh, don't bother me. I want them to take a closer look at me. Did you notice I'm perfect for your opening? And now the third step, well, the step in between, why don't you capture all this information? This form and a lot of the job search forms I recommend you can download for free right on my SelfRecruiter website. You just go under the advice tab and look for the article called Job Search Management System, and you can download all these forms. Why don't you begin to collect this knowledge? This is valuable knowledge you're building about these companies, these players, these people who will also go to other companies at some point. And you want to track all of that information and all the efforts that you've made and all the connections that you've built. So wherever you are in this part of the process, I think you need to take your first step and repeat and repeat and repeat. By the way, I see your question, Trish, and I want to respond to that. What you're referring to is those direct messages, those in-mails, which I never recommend sending. I never recommend communicating with anybody on LinkedIn other than a connect request. Think of a person like myself or a hiring individual. As a public speaker, I can tell you my inbox is filled with well over 1,000 unopened nonsense messages of spam, just inundating me all night, all day long. And some really good messages get lost in there. So for me, I truly don't recommend communicating through that basic element of the messaging system. That's different than a connect request, which is completely siloed outside of that. You can send as many of those as you'd like. I think you need to think about connecting with as many people as possible, but also targeting the right ones at these companies, which become a game changer. So far, and if you've missed the early part of the lecture, you can watch it on replay. So far, what we've done is we've saw that opportunity that we wanted. We went to LinkedIn, we reverse searched the company to choose 25 to 30 people that are up, down, left and right surrounding this job to warm up the audience behind the firewall of the company. By the way, I do recommend connecting to every single one of those or asking to connect to every single one of those 25 to 30. But now these 3, 4, or 5 individuals, we're going to do something very, very special. We're going to step outside of LinkedIn and we're going to email them directly. By the way, not brain surgery to get anybody's email. We can get 99% of the people's email within 2 or 3 minutes, or we need a little bit more training on how to Google things. It's very, very simple. If we have time at the end, I'll try to sink that part into today's lecture. But now these 3 to 5 people, I'm going to reach out to them directly, to each of them as if they're the only person in the world, all by themselves. You're the most important person in the world. And that's because I have to create engagement. And, this is a dating process as much as it is a sales process. And boy, we don't like the thought of it being a dating or sales process, but that's what it is, which means it's got to be about them before it's ever about us, much more than the mechanical kind of engagement. So what are we going to do here? Well, let's give it to you right now. Uncovering emails and phone numbers. It's actually pretty quick. Emails itself, all you have to do is find one human being's email at that entire company, apply the name to the format, you have everybody's email. That's 99%. Yep, I'm going to miss a few hyphens. I'm going to miss a few people that maybe just got married and changed their name. You have to let the 1% you can't get go, but you can get to 99% of the people very, very quickly. Other ways to do it or to find that one person is go to Google, put in the name of the company, follow it by the word email, and then follow it by the portion of their email. Let's take Informatica as an example. Their email is whatever the human part is at informatica.com. So if you take the at symbol, informatica.com, and put that whole thing inside quotations inside the Google window, along with the name of the company and email, boom. Don't click on any results. That's another trip down the rabbit hole, but simply look at page 1, 2, or 3 of the results. And really about 99% of the time, you're going to spot a human being's email. And you have one person's email, you have all the person's emails. Getting phone numbers is actually pretty easy as well. Not their individual line numbers, but basically the office they work in. Figure out their location, put that city and state into a Google search along with the company name, and you'll be surprised how quickly the local offices pop up. You call the switchboard. Hey, good morning. It's John Crant. Is Jack in, please? Jack Smith, please. Notice I said Jack because Jack knows me. Well, Jack doesn't know me. But then I repeated his full name so they know who I'm speaking about. And I'm conveying they know me. And this is a way of easily getting past gatekeepers in most cases. A lot more in getting past gatekeepers in some of the other lectures. Now, this is only some of the tools in our toolbox. We have to think about what we need, where our skills are. We have to develop those skills all the time, and we have to utilize them at the right moment. So as you put together, say, this marketing campaign about yourself to go after the decision maker, in my view, it's going to involve partly LinkedIn, partly maybe even snail mail. You mean something in the US mail? Yes, why not? Not many people mail things today. But by the way, when you mail something, please don't stick your resume in an envelope seal it up and mail it. What did I receive today? It's a resume with no letter. By the way, I just had one of my clients go through a hiring process, got promoted recently, opportunity to build their whole brand new team. That does not come along very often in a career. That's a rare opportunity. So it's like, wow, I can really build a team from scratch. I can do it right this time versus all the times I've seen it done wrong. And great role, great compensation, great brand. And they found one singular individual that they could interview, because they weren't going to interview people that didn't meet their qualifications, didn't meet their specifications, didn't demonstrate they really wanted this job. You know what was a big factor? A cover letter. 90% of the people did not include a cover letter, and 90% of the people were disqualified immediately. You know what no cover letter means? You're not looking for this job. You're looking for a job. Well, you know what? I'm not hiring someone that's looking for a job. I need someone that wants this job, because if you really want this job, I'll get a different work product out of you. By all means, if you're mailing something in, I sure hope there's a cover letter, because it's a date. You think someone's going on a date with you without a personal pitch? Well, maybe with the swipe left, swipe right, but that's not necessarily a real date in my view. I know, different world I grew up in, thank goodness. Don't have to deal with a lot of that. But let's get back to the other three components, the LinkedIn, voicemail, and email. Now, we talked about how to find people on LinkedIn, how to warm up your audience behind the firewall of the company by opening the profiles, asking them to connect, not waiting for the answer on the connect request, because it's simply sales process. And now we're going to step over to email to do that personal pitch out to these 3 to 5 individuals. By the way, 3 is enough. 3 is enough. But if you got 5 for every single job that you're going after, your odds would change dramatically over the course of 4 or 5 opportunities. So let's go get 5 people every single time. And we'll talk about how voicemail fits into this. All this is a coordinated marketing campaign. So if you're up for it, what I would love you to do is both email and call them. Call them? I don't even want to call my friends. I get it. It's a different world today. We're afraid of the telephone. By the way, I was afraid of the telephone when I became a recruiter many years ago. I'd never been in sales, but I saw a friend of mine 10 years younger than me earning more money than I was. And I had 43 employees, around the clock nightmare, running a $43 million operation. I'm like, this is not right. And I turned around and quit my job. And I'm like, I'm going to go learn this, where it's just by my efforts. And, like second day of training, supposed to have 2 weeks of solid training. I'm like, with 2 weeks of training, I'll be okay. And second day of training, they go, well, here's your phone. Here's the script you wrote on your first day. And there's 20 managers, make the phone call. I'm like, or maybe it would be, turn this a little louder, you might be able to hear it. My heart is just beating out of my chest. I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? And sweat's pouring down. And I thought I was going to have a coronary right there. They were kind enough to leave the room and allow me to do it, which I did, but it was just awful. What they had to find out is, could I pick up the phone? If I couldn't pick up the phone, I could never do this job. So they get that over on day 2. Very brutal boot camp. So I understand how scary it is to call people you don't know. But that's why you also have to drink enough of the Kool-Aid that you understand why you're more exciting and valuable than the next 5 or 6 people that want that job. So in setting this up, I'd like you to be able to call, or at least grow toward the level of being able to call eventually. Because if you can leave them a voicemail, it's almost always going to voicemail. So there's your kind of get out of jail free card on this process. They can hear your passion in a voicemail. They can't hear your passion in a written piece, no matter how well you write it. So the 1-2 combination here going after them is I write the message and then I have it up on screen. I could send it. I don't send it. It's up on screen. I could send it, but I don't. And it's all there waiting for me. And so what I do is I now pick up the phone if I'm going to integrate things as far as the phone. And now I hear the ring and I get ready to say what exactly I see on screen. So keep in mind that it's almost the same message. Maybe I change a word or two, but it's almost the exact same message. So if it goes to voicemail, beep, I go, hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. just like they should know who that is. And I have to say it in a way they can hear my name. My name's a little bit difficult, even though it's so simple, John Crant. But everyone hears John Grant or something like that. And I have to put a little bit of a pregnant pause between the two words. And that takes practice, and it's very uncomfortable in the mouth. So practice, practice, practice. It's John Crant, a little space in between. Just like they should know who that is. And I have to be excited. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. Think of the date. Think of the date. I'm so excited about what I see going on at ABC Company. You are. Do tell. Do tell. If you crossed the room to introduce yourself to someone, I just had to come over here and introduce myself to you. Was it my hair, my eyes? What they want to know? They want to know here too. So you have to go do your homework. Means go to Google, click the news tab, put their keyword in, find out what's going on in the company, what initiatives they're getting in the press. If there's nothing there, go to their press releases on their website, find something to stroke their ego about. I saw that Wall Street Journal article because I went and looked for it on your new such and such launch. Oh, those things are always so good to get. Yes, speak to them like a dear old friend you haven't seen in a little while, like a real human being. And then at that moment, I attach in exactly why it could be valuable to them. Back when I was with XYZ Company, think about it now, all we have to have is a carrot to get the meeting. And a meeting is an interview. Don't need to be called an interview. A meeting's an interview. Back when I was at XYZ Company, I handled a very similar launch. I'd love to come in, go for the jugular. I'd love to come in and share with you how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. That would be valuable to me. And then jugular again. I have an opening on my calendar. Oh my gosh, your words are very, very important. Tuesday at 10 a.m. That's one day, one time, never more. You're open all next week. I'm never meeting with you. Your dance card's not full. Your schedule's not full. You're wasting my time. One day, one time to get them to react, good, bad, or ugly. You've already won because they've psychologically moved past the point of thinking about whether to speak with you, and they're simply reacting to that darn schedule that nobody likes. If you're doing this by message and not live, then you simply have to remember that your job in this process is as the salesperson in the process, which means you have to keep the momentum going. You have to communicate this is not fantasy. And I like a single line after that says, looking forward to a great discussion. By the way, that did not say I'm looking forward to a great discussion. That's about you. It has to be about them. Take some literary license. Looking forward to a great discussion with a dash. Oh, I guess this guy thinks he's going to meet with me. Yes. Why would you not meet with me unless you're a crazy person or you're maybe not qualified for your own job and I'm scaring the daylights out of you? Probably not the right person for me to think about working for. So wherever we are, we have to think about this 1-2 combination. So I've now done the voicemail. If I did not stick my foot in my mouth, I click send on the email. There's the 1-2 combination. They get it through their eyes. They get it through their ears. They hear the passion over the voicemail. By the way, you heard me do that voicemail. The mistake people make with voicemail is they go into voicemail mode. Oh, hi, Jack. It's John Crant. It's like, what are you doing up in the clouds? Drop your register. Speak like a secret to a dear friend. This is a dating process. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. Notice I'm not rushing. It's a voicemail. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. Let's give you one more. What if they actually answered the phone? Oh my gosh, please don't answer the phone. Believe me, I've been there as a recruiter. I'm like, I hope they don't answer. I hope they just like my message and call me back. Well, I hope so too, but you're going to have to get people in conversation to sell to them. That's the way it works. So if they do answer the phone, hey, good morning, this is Jack. First off, have your script in front of you, like I always did as a recruiter, in case I panicked. Then you know what I could do? Because they can't see me. It's not a video call. I can simply look at the script and I can relax and I can say it even though I'm panicked in the heart. And even though everything's beating out of control, I go, hey, good morning, Jack. Notice it's almost the same language. It's John Crant. How are you doing this morning? Because they're live, I have to say that. They're going to be 1 of 3 responses. I'm fine, John. How can I help you? I love that response. Or they're going to go, I'm fine, John. How can I help you? That's the trained dog response. I'll take it. I'm moving forward. Or they're going to give us something we don't like I'm terrible. Can't pretend I didn't hear it. We're going to take you through the whole structure coming up, but I want you to hear how I would respond. Let's imagine they responded negatively. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you doing this morning? I'm doing terrible. Well, gosh, Jack, let's see if we can change that. You notice how I don't rush? Let's see if we can change that. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by what I see going on at ABC Company. By the way, I had seen your Wall Street Journal article on your new such and such launch. I know those things are always so good to get. You know, Jack, when I was back with XYZ Company, I handled a very similar launch. You know, I would love to come in and meet with you and share how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. I have an opening Tuesday at 10 a.m. on my calendar. Might that work for a brief meeting? Might makes them feel in control. Brief meeting says you're not going to waste their time, and you have to be brave enough to wait for their answer. No, Tuesday's terrible. Wednesday, 3 o'clock. I wait for them to reject it. I have a replacement right away, like breathing, without rushing, but just like breathing, and lure them into the conversation. Don't react because they're sitting in the middle of their normal day in a firestorm. That is not about you. That's about the fires going on all around them. Now, this relationship channel can be done through other methods as well. You can use Facebook and Twitter or X and all these other things as well. I had a client that got their interview through a Facebook post simply by saying, "Happy birthday." Rest of that story is pretty simple. They had been up for this job, which was a really great job 2 years prior. And the company fell for smoke and mirrors. They fell for someone that was good at razzle dazzle, but really did not bring the background. It was pretty clear to me as a recruiter going, that's the person you're hiring and they're not qualified. They're going to be out the door very quickly. And they were out the door very, very quickly because they could not provide the solution. And here they're hiring again. And since my client came in number 2, we thought, oh, this will be an easy one. Let's get in there, and sends in their stuff and doesn't hear back. Well, my client works very strategically. They don't use Facebook for all the chit chat and nonsense. They use it to showcase another aspect of their life for career. And so they're already connected to the hiring person at the other company on their Facebook. And they suddenly called me going, oh, I haven't heard back, but I see it's her birthday today. I'm like, I have it. We're going to get on Facebook. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to say, happy birthday. And that's all we're going to do. They're like, what? Yeah, just post happy birthday and just wait. Now, this other person was also getting a little mature, and so they answered back right in their Facebook feed, because previously when they were in there interviewing 2 years ago, they realized they kept the Facebook tab open on their desktop. Be very observant. And this person said, oh, thank you so much. And I know I owe you an email back. Gosh, I hope I'm not connected to my current manager. Do you realize this is a live open chat? Now, this is not one-on-one communications on Facebook. Anyway, so they got the interview, everything else through Facebook. There's all sorts of methods that you can get your interview. So I want you to think about communications channels and how you begin to open them in all directions. Now, our message, good, bad, ugly, a little bit of theater involved as well. We have to separate out the effective from non-effective message. We have to make sure that it's not me. Ever go on a date with Mr. Me? Me. A little more me. You think there's going to be a second date with Mr. Me? I don't think so, unless we're going to the Four Seasons. There's someplace I need to go. So it has to be about them, all about them, tiny bit about me, all about them. And so keep that in mind. This is a date. How do you want them to see you? How do you want them to perceive you? Hopefully, passionate and driven, authoritative. More than all of these other things, of course, they have to be able to see you as the future of their company. Let's get to the calling script itself. We're going to take you right through that. Wherever you are so far in the process, understand what your first step is. This would be a very bad first step. Hi, this is John. I'd like you to hire me. Security, get this guy out of here. There's no value there. That's all about you. It's like, get in line with the gazillion other people, that might like this job. Let me get a little sip of coffee. Job search is a sales process along with the dating process. So there has to be value in every word that you speak, every message that you send out. That's how you open opportunities you never dreamed might have existed. So You've got to be persuasive. You got to be engaging. You have to understand their story. You have to understand how you can be valuable to them. And you essentially have 30 seconds to live or die. And dying sounds like, how'd you get my phone number? Would you take me off your list? Never call me again? Security. So, but you'll graciously typically get, if you don't mess up the greeting, you'll graciously get about 30 seconds before they make that decision to hit the kill switch on you. So again, this form you can download right on my SelfRecruiter website under the advice tab. Just look for the job search management system. It's part of that form. And the text on the left, I'm going to make this a little bit larger. Maybe I can come over the top of it here. The text on the left will remind you of everything I'm teaching you now. I just want to take you through the structure. Now, you heard me do the structure several times, but I want you to kind of think about it mechanically and how we assemble this. Hey, good morning, Jack. Now, did you miss so far that every single person I speak to is by first name? Jack, Jim, Jill, whatever their name is, doesn't matter. I don't care if they're the CEO of the company. I don't care if they've got a doctor title. They're by first name as an equal. You must be equal to every single person that you speak with. You never speak up to anyone, certainly never speak down to anyone. So it's, hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you doing this morning? Or if this is in writing, hey, good morning, Jack. And then I get right to the point. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by blah, blah, blah. Now, let's back this up and take this into calling, because really this is the calling framework, but you realize the written message is very, very similar. So as we're calling, we're going to greet them, wait for the response. This is the same thing I taught recruiters for many years. And inevitably, someone in the class would go, isn't that what everybody says? Yes. That's why this is the usual customer expected. If you don't mess up the greeting, you're going to get the 30 seconds to prove yourself. So be gracious, be engaging, inform them who you are. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you doing this morning? Wait for that response. Good, bad, or ugly, you can't ignore it. So hopefully they give you one of the ones to proceed. If they give you one of the ugly ones, we already talked about how to overcome that. Well, let's see if we can change that, blah, blah, blah. Get right to why you're calling. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to why? Because I'm so excited by what I see going on at XYZ company. I saw the Wall Street Journal article on your new such and such launch. This is a basic sales technique, by the way. Everybody knows what you're doing, but we're human beings. We can't resist it. So think about how this will benefit you a lot. If you went to one of those schools, there's only like a handful, 2 handfuls. There's not many of those schools. If you went to one of those schools, my gosh, mention it. I see the door fly off the hinges for folks, my clients that have gone to those schools. But don't delude yourself. There's a lot of great schools out there. That's probably not your school. If you went to one of those schools, you know what they are. We don't have to name them. They probably fit on one hand. You mention it. Otherwise, move on to the selling point about you, which is 2, 3 things, something that's really amazing that would make them want to meet with you. And best would be something that links directly to what you stroked their ego about, that new launch. Gosh, Jack, back when I was with ABC Company, here comes the carrot. I worked on a launch that's very similar. I'd love to come in and share with you how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. And then you have to close them. Closing them is this simple sales method of getting them to imagine and agree to what you'd like. So I have an opening on my calendar. Words are very, very important. Tuesday at 10 a.m. And then hand off control to them. Might that work for a brief meeting? Only concern is don't waste my time. Oh, brief meeting. I can handle that. And then see what they say from there. And if it's in writing, of course, keep the momentum going with it. Looking forward to a great discussion. Here's my cell. That's a lot to think about. And you have to practice it. You have to practice it out loud to get it really in your mouth and make it work that way. Let me come back up here so I can join you a little bit more up on screen. So you're going to do so much work. And if you end up in live conversation, you can't just take a yes or no and, oh, it didn't work. They're not hiring. I have to go away. Really? I would challenge my recruiters I was training I would say, okay, now, if you get a manager on the phone today, your mission in life is to keep them on the phone until they hang up on you. No. I'm like, is John evil? Or would I like him to hang up on you? No. But what you get from that kind of exercise is realizing that it takes much, much more than you think before someone will reach the point of hanging up on you. What that does for you as a recruiter or as a self-recruiter is it helps you understand the latitude you have in conversation. So someone might keep going, oh, John, I have to run to a meeting. Absolutely. Let me let you go. I'm using an agree but disagree technique. I agreed to let them go, and then I disagree with what I just said by asking them a question that's so compelling they just can't resist answering it. It's not my fault if they answer it. They can't resist answering it. Oh, yeah, let me just ask you this. And I say something that's so compelling. They're like, oh, but it's like, oh, but I really do have to go. Absolutely, I'll let you go. But wait, what about this? I do it again. And you realize you have much more latitude. Most of the time, those reasons you're hearing that they have to go is simply the horse wagging its tail to get rid of the flies, to see if they can shake you free. Be compelling, be interesting. What else can you get from this call? What else can you say? What else can you leave them thinking? What are they thinking about you? What are they thinking about your skills? And is there something else you can do here? Well, if they just hired, really? You don't hear opportunity because they just hired? Where do you think that person came from? Probably in a similar role someplace else. Oh, congratulations. Agree but disagree. Congratulations on the new hire. I know that's always so great. I'm so curious, Jack. What was their background? What company did they come from? Because there's an open job over there, and I can go get it right now. If I'm right for this one, I'm certainly probably right for that one. And it's kind of that time I need to grab a tissue. Sorry about that. So I can chase down this opportunity at the other company with just a little bit of probing and discussion. I can also find out a little bit else about their background, or if they've seen other people, what have they not seen? That'll tell me why they didn't hire. And if I have that in my background, I could present it right now and I could get a meeting. Well, Jack, that's interesting because I have that exact experience. I'd love to come in and share with you. Sell. You're there to persuade. Maybe even if you make a nice rapport with them as you're parting, you could say, Jack, let me ask you one last thing. If you had my background, put them in your shoes, looking out of your eyes, and take their industry advice. Where would you look for an opportunity? Well, I'd look at ABC company over there. Why didn't they say that earlier? It's not their job to tell me where to look for opportunity. It's my job to make them want to tell me where to look for opportunity. That comes from asking the right question, being prepared, and understanding this is a sales meeting, and I have to think about those kinds of things. Social media marketing is a huge part of all of this as well. So I want you to think about success here is all about how much preparation you put into it. And it's about leveraging this network we talked about at the beginning of the lecture, but you have to have some idea of who you are, because as distasteful as this concept of perception being reality is, it is the truth today. Not good enough just to be great at what you do. You also have to meet that perception, and you can simply change perception or change reality by changing perception of you. And small little changes change that perception. So if you have to take a different route, if you have to break the rules, if you have to go over the fence, if it says must apply online, must apply to HR, well, I'm certainly not applying to online. I'm certainly, since I don't want to work for HR, certainly not going to apply to HR. But thank you for the advice. Must send a Word document. Wouldn't let a Word document out of my cold, dead fingers. You have no idea what your resume looks like if you do. We have to understand this basic concept that we're a product, and we have to elevate our product with how we present ourselves across LinkedIn and all of our shares and all of that. Most of it comes down to this. You have to be ready to go sell yourself, which means you have to be ready to be the salesperson and champion for yourself. The person that can hold the conversation, strategically plan where I'm going to take it next. Since we're already talking, I got to plan where I'm going to go next. I have to listen intently to find opportunity to further sell and persuade you. I've got to be ready. As we close today, or get ready to close, I want to recap what I think job search really is. As I started today's broadcast, I told you I thought it was pure tragedy that we sit on the internet looking for job postings. That wastes 50% of our time, because half those job postings aren't really real, ready to hire today. So why don't we reverse that entire investment? Instead of sitting on the internet looking for job postings, which is simply one of 15 different ways to find the job, check out my Supercharging Your Job Search lecture. Why don't I select the organizations or companies that are statistically perfect to hire me? I teach 2 different ways of building that list over in my LinkedIn lecture. So check out the LinkedIn lecture. Once I have a statistically perfect list of 30 companies that would hire me today, I have to align the sun, the moon, the stars, working backward, devise the steps, think like a detective. I mean, it's not really possible what John's saying, but if it were, how would it work? What do I do? How do I open up the profiles? How do I go after the decision makers? How do I persuade them? Decision maker, what's their job? To object to you. I hear an objection. Well, John, you don't have this industry background. I'm excited. You know why? Because I know they wouldn't be having that discussion if they didn't think, oh, maybe, I got to ask him this. You don't have this industry background. You know, I don't. Agree but disagree technique. I'm going to agree to that because I don't have it. I can't pretend I do. But I'm sure you'll meet enough of those type individuals and the other candidates. You'll see what I bring to the table is something very, very different. It's also why I'll be most successful in this role. Overcome those objections, get the meeting, dazzle them, have them either give you the job or create the job, whatever it might be. So another way to think of some clarity in the job search steps, and we covered a lot of this today, is choose the organizations or companies first. Have that list of them, stack rank them in priority, go after the most valuable ones first, select 25 or 30 individuals to open their profiles, triggering that marketing event on LinkedIn. So behind the firewall of the company, they begin to be aware of you because they see, oh, we need a person just like this. You do. Ask them to connect. Don't wait for the answer because it's irrelevant. It's a sales process. Email the 3, 4, 5 decision makers, each as if they're the only person in the world. Book a meeting. In all of my outreach messaging today, did you ever hear me say I was looking for a job? Absolutely not. It's not part of the message. Everybody receiving the message understands I'm looking for a job. If I say I'm looking for a job or I mention an open job, that gets me kicked to HR. If that need is real, you don't think they're going, oh, I need a person just like this. You do. I position myself to get struck by lightning. Have a little faith, take that leap of faith with those decision makers. I also never, ever let the word interview cross my lips because that gets me kicked to HR as well. I'd love to meet with you. You know what a meeting is? Interview. Book that meeting, sell, repeat, repeat, repeat. This is something we have to mechanize and become mechanical. Take your first step, wherever that might be, and let's get in a rhythm. Your goal in job search should be to book one brand new, fresh company interview every single week. That's a brand new company every single week, in addition to all the follow-up ones that you'll book. And that takes a lot of effort. So check out the Supercharging Your Job Search lecture. It'll help you a lot. Well, this is a wrap of today's Marketing Yourself to the Decision Maker, a little bit of magic on how to directly outreach. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., we're going to walk you through how to go after a different type of role than you've done in the past. That's charting your career transition. That is tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. Here's a little glance at all of the lectures this week. Thursday, we're going to do the social media marketing lecture. That's once I have a great LinkedIn profile, how do I build a marketing campaign to really put me front and center in front of those industry people that I'd like to be aware of me and to hire me? Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. I really do appreciate it. Check out all my services over on the SelfRecruiter YouTube channel, not over on the SelfRecruiter website, under the services tab. Everything's listed there. If you need to chat before knowing which package is right to you, send me a quick email. That's an email, not an in-mail. Send me a quick email and we'll set up a time to talk and we'll help you through it. If you found this helpful today, I really do hope that you hit like, comment, share, message. All that really does help the algorithm. I really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.